Oh. All extraterrestrial close encounters are creepy. Some, however, are creepier than all the rest. Here are 10 you may or may not have heard of.
At number 10, we have the Gulf Breeze sightings. Although now known to have been faked, they featured chilling, timeless elements, such as UFOs sucking a poor victim into the spacecraft against his will, despite trying to hang on for dear life. They always managed to get him when they really wanted him. At number 9, we have the case of a woman, in 1959, anonymous, in the United States, who was presented during an abduction with a man. It looked like the aliens had drugged him up. The aliens told her, "You are ripe. You must now breed." At number 8, we have a case from 1975. Two lumber mill electricians were out in their truck testing their CB radios when they saw strange, star-like objects coming towards them. An object appeared to crash, and they fled. The following day they returned with a skeptical friend and a metal detector. They found some wreckage and saw some glowing silvery eyes staring out at them from the bushes, and heard a strange siren-like sound, so they once again fled. At number 7, we have the Tunguska explosion. Although now suspected to have been some kind of asteroid, for decades this was thought to have been a strange case of a UFO explosion. Apparently it was thought that a UFO had lost its reactor core. The result of the explosion was that fires across Siberia lit up the sky in England at night time, 10,000 kilometers away, in 1908 for many weeks. The explosion was so powerful that it shattered windows and deafened people hundreds of kilometers away. At number 6, we have the case of 12-year-old Ken Rogers. During the mind scan procedure of an alien abduction, he reached up to strangle the throat of a grey. He said that the neck seemed solid, without the feel of moving muscles. The speculation is that they have no vocal cords communicating via telepathy, but that's just an idea. At number 5, we have the case of a hunter who was apparently killed by a UFO. In 1981, Raimundo Souza, a man of 40, and a hunting companion were waiting for game. Souza struck a match to light up. This seems to have alerted a UFO, which came over and fired a beam at Souza, who fell out of his hammock. Terrified, his hunting companion crashed into the undergrowth and hid, trembling until morning. The next morning he saw Souza was dead. According to a police report, his body, along with several others, had been, quote-unquote, drained of blood. At number 4, we have the case of 12-year-old Oscar Philippe of 1978. During a 3-week period, there were a set of various UFO cases in Venado Tuerto, a small town in Argentina. One day he was riding a horse, Cometa. He lost control of it, and it bolted into the fog. He told his father what the horse had seen. "Father, in the field I found a big round thing." Unbelieving, his father sent him back into the field to retrieve the horses. The horses had bolted in all directions. The round thing was 30 feet wide and 15 high. A 7-foot-tall being with breathing apparatus appeared and invited Oscar to come inside. Oscar then saw what had become of several cattle which had gone missing recently. A robot was busy cutting up cattle bones into various pieces. Later, he would awake screaming, saying he dreamed he was in the saucer and they would do things to him. The horse Cometa later became unusually short-sighted and later died. At number 3 on the creepy scale, we have an unusual case from Brazil. Another hunting story. Manuel, a 46-year-old prospector, was a rugged outdoorsman. He was not, however, prepared for the gauntlet he would be put through in the fall of 1982. The day began like any other. Manuel told his wife he was going out hunting. "Don't go," his wife pleaded. Recently, another man, Ramon, had been killed in a suspected incident with a chupa, a strange, unusual sphere-like object which had been seen in the vicinity. Early in the night, Manuel shot a deer. Later, he was sleeping on his hammock between trees. He awoke later to realize that something was firing at him. It appeared to be a pair of spherical objects firing a beam at him. He instinctively fired at the objects, to no effect. He crashed into the undergrowth, and there began the longest living nightmare of his life. He ran for hours, avoiding the objects between 10 p.m. and 5 a.m. the next morning, resting under trees until the objects once again found him. Every time the beam struck him, he fell and felt weak. There was also a horrid sulphurous smell which terrified him, accompanied by the bursts. He finally came to a house in the village of Lagoa de Dentro. A boy had opened the door for Manuel and saw a refrigerator-shaped object approaching, firing a red beam. Manuel later sold his gun collection and never hunted again. He would later call the incident the worst thing in my life. To number 2 now, we have the case of the hill at Morro de Vintem, the hill of the penny coin in Rio de Janeiro. 2 men had been found close to the top of the hill in 1966, lying peacefully side by side. They were electronics technicians in their early 30s. Unusually for their age, the official cause of death was cardiac arrest. There was far more to the story than that. It turns out they had actually been on the hill waiting for a UFO from Jupiter. One of the men had crumpled up notes with electrical formulas in his pocket, as well as cloth soaked in an unknown chemical substance. They also had lead masks to perhaps shield their eyes from radiation, so they had been prepared for what would happen. The night of their deaths, locals had seen an orange egg-shaped object giving off blue rays over the hill where the men had been waiting. One of them had earlier spoken of his secret mission to his sister. Both had been members of an occult society with unknown objectives. Their bizarre death remains a mystery. To number 1 now, we have the creepiest event of all, the Dyatlov Pass incident. A group of hiking adventurers had been camping north of the Ural Mountains on February the 2nd, 1959, on the eastern side of the Mountain of the Dead. All were huddled inside a large tent. During the night, something made them all leave their tent. They ran in different directions without their clothes. Despite the freezing conditions, they refused to return to their tent and presumably froze to death. They had some kind of radiation burn, for their bodies turned up yellow. One of the girls was found with her tongue missing. No compelling explanation has ever been offered.
Well, we've seen quite a lot of strangeness here today. And I've got this book here on aliens which I've been reading to research for this video. And I came across a conclusion which I feel offers some definitive answers to the entire UFO riddle. And I'd like to read that out now for the benefit of the entire world. And the passage goes like this. It's extremely exciting. The origin of all UFOs and aliens seems to be very deep in our solar system. They all seem to originate from the planet, although the triple conjunction would have considerable astrological significance. It was an unspectacular event. How about that? Who would have thought that aliens could come so many light years from such a faraway place? Well, anyway, that's enough of that for today. Join me again next time for another exciting episode of Chucky's Top 10.